Alright, welcome to the final video in the 3-2 video series. We're going to take a look at two more situations that you might be given and asked to find the rate of change or to use the rate of change. The first one that we're going to talk about in this video is going to be from a table. So we're given a table of values for h of x, and we want to know what is the average rate of change from x equals 6 to x equals 2. So what we're going to have to do is use the information they give us for the interval and figure out our ordered pair from the table. So for example, we're given x equals 6. I'm just going to simply find 6 where my x's is and see what the y value is going to be, and I can see the ordered pair would be 6, 35. I'm going to do the same thing with x equals 2. I find 2 on the table, I go to see what its matching y value is and see that it's going to be 3. So this is going to give me my two ordered pairs. I'm going to have 6, 35 and 2, 3. We're going to go back to using our slope formula we've been talking about throughout this lesson, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to start with 35 on top with my y's and do 35 minus 3. Since I started with 35 with my y value, I need to start with 6 as my x value, so I'm going to do 6 minus 2. 35 minus 3 is going to give me 32, and 6 minus 2 is going to give me 4. I simplify my fraction, and I'm going to find that my rate of change is going to be 8. So that's all you need to do from the table. Just make sure that you are finding the correct ordered pairs, and you should be good to go on that. The last situation we're going to talk about is from a scenario. And in this scenario, we're actually going to kind of compare the slopes and the rate of changes between two different situations. So we're trying to decide which theater to go to for a Friday night movie. Habersham Hills charges $7 for the movie ticket and $5 per food item. Regal's prices are represented by the table, and we want to write an equation for both Habersham Hills and Regal Cinemas and then compare their rates of change and initial costs. So let's go ahead and take a look at what they give us about Habersham Hills. Habersham Hills charges $7 for the movie and $5 per food item. So if we are going under the assumption that we're buying one ticket and then a variable amount of food items, we can take a look at writing an equation. Now we're going to want to write an equation in the form y equals mx plus b. Remember, b is going to be our slope or our rate of change, and b is going to be our y-intercept or our initial value. So our initial value is going to be whatever we charge for the movie. So if we're plugging into this equation, we're going to do y equals, we'll leave the slope part blank for right now, x plus whatever the initial cost is. Now the initial cost is going to be what it costs to buy a movie, but not any food items. So we know from the information they gave us that we're going to be paying $7 no matter how many food items we buy. Now what we are going to see changing is going to be how many food items we're buying, and we're seeing that that is going to be a cost of $5 per food item. So we're going to have this equation for Habersham Hills. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at Regal, and we're going to have to look at the information over here. We're going to want to do a similar process. Now this is going to be a little bit trickier to decipher. So remember, the y-intercept is where our x value is equal to 0. So I'm going to find that on the chart. My x value is 0 right here, and I can see the y value is 8. So if I'm reading in context of this table, this is the number of food items with the ticket. So if we're not buying any food and we're just buying the ticket is going to be $8. Now we have to figure out what we're buying or what we're paying as far as each food item. So we need to see what's happening each time. Alright, to go from 8 to 12, if you do 12 minus 8, that's going to be 4. 16 minus 12 is also 4. 20 minus 16 is 4. And 24 minus 20 is 4. So we can see that this has a constant rate of change, that we're going up by 4 every time. Alright, again, we don't know how many food items we're going to purchase, so we're going to let that part be x. So we're asked to compare the rates of change and initial cost. So as far as rates of change go, that's going to be how much it costs for each food item. And we're going to see that Habersham Hills is going to have a greater rate of change than Regal. That means they're charging more per food item than Regal is. If we're looking at our initial cost, that's going to be just the price of the ticket. In this case, Habersham Hills only charged $7 for the movie, whereas Regal charged $8. So Habersham Hills is going to be less than Regal. Now we want to know which theater is cheaper if you want to see the movie, and also get a drink and popcorn. So what we can do is we can figure out at what point is it going to be cheaper to buy from Regal than Habersham Hills. Habersham Hills is going to start out the cheapest because we know that it charges only $7 for a ticket, whereas Regal charges $8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the two equations we wrote, 5x plus 7 and 4x plus 8, and I'm going to find out when they're going to be equal. Now this reviews back to the Unit 2 where we were solving some word problems by substitution. We're just going to set the two sides equal to each other. So we would subtract 4x from both sides. So we would get x plus 7 equals 8. And then we would subtract 7 from both sides and get x equals 1. So this is the point where the prices are going to be the same. So Habersham Hills will be cheaper before we get there because they had the lowest initial cost. So Habersham Hills is going to be the best option if we buy 0 food items. And Regal will be the best option after the point where they're equal, since they're charging less per food item, and that's going to be 2 or more food items. And if it was 1, then it doesn't really matter which you're going to go to because it's going to be the same price either way. Now in our specific scenario, we wanted to see the movie and also get a drink and popcorn. So that's 2 food items, so Regal would be our best choice. Alright, that wraps up this section. Give the U tries a problem, check out the answers in the solution guide. Make sure that you work on the practice. Let us know if you have any questions, and good luck on the mastery check.